All right, so it looks like we are live. And here we go. Come on! Hey guys, happy 4th of July to all my American friends, and happy Sunday to the rest of us who aren't really celebrating anything, but just maybe a beautiful Sunday. I am just going to give this a couple of seconds before I start. I just noticed I left it at June 27th, so I'm just changing it to July 4th. And I'm just going to save this right here. Hi Patty, hi Stacy. I figured like a lot of people might not be joining in today because it is July 4th and you guys probably have exciting plans. Hi Carol, hi Steffi. So tell me about your plans, guys. Exciting food, good friends, family over. Steffi, hi. Thank you so much, Steffi, for letting me know about the ETCHR video over the weekend. I didn't realize it was only like 4 minutes, and then I went and checked. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Hi, Paula. Patty, yes. Okay. So we're having a live today, but next Sunday, just a reminder, we are not going to be having a live because I am doing my Roses class, which is happening next Sunday at 2 p.m. EST, same time that we normally do the live. So those of you who are interested in joining that, please make sure you sign up. I think I have it on my Instagram. I've posted it on the community on YouTube as well, on Facebook. So check it out, or if you don't find the link, just DM me and I can give you all the information about it. But it's an hour-and-a-half class. It's $15, and we're going to be practicing a bunch of roses to begin with, and then towards the end we're going to be doing this nice composition of roses. So this week, before we actually, leading up to next Sunday, I'm going to be sending out everyone who signed up already details on what's needed for the class so you can be prepared and ready. Let's see, staying home and staying safe, Carol says. Okay, all right, absolutely. Pool time with friends, oh, fun. Hi, Alicia from Poland, hugs right back to you. Hi, Adrian. Hi, Leah. Oh, nice, looks like lots of people are doing pool stuff. All right, fun, okay. So I think what I will do is before I flip my camera over really quickly, if you didn't catch last week's video live demo that I did with ETCHR on their YouTube channel, you should check it out. I used their pearlescent colors and we came up with something quite cute. So that's there for you to check out if you want to. If not, I think I'm having a, no, I don't think, I know I'm having a workshop with them July 19th. And again, I think they'll post it on theirs, and I'll post it on my Instagram as well, so you guys can catch that info there. But today, what I want to do today is, don't be misled by the image that I have as a holder on YouTube today. Today I want to do a wildflower wreath, and because I did heather for Thursday's tutorial, I think just to make it slightly easier but a little more challenging for you guys, we're gonna do a heather wreath. So it's a lot of repetition, it's going to be a lot of pointillism, and I hope you guys are ready to have fun. I'm also switching it up with my colors. Today I'm going to be using my Daniel Smith colors, and I will be using the ETCHR postcard that I also used for their live demo session that I did, and I think because it's smaller, I think it'll be easier for us to do something this detailed because it's such a tiny, like, such a simplistic flower, but there's so much detail to it with the colors, so I figured on a smaller scale it might look prettier as well. So we're gonna try that. And so now that I've given you the lowdown of what we're doing, let me switch my camera over so you can see my desktop and we can begin. So switching to my painting bit, here we go. All right, and then I have made sure that I have charged my my camera battery, so it should not fuzz out on us, and definitely hoping for good internet. So here's to that. Let's see how that works out. Okay, so I'm gonna start. Oh, Artie's saying we are celebrating 4th of July. I figured, Artie. I figured you were. I know it's a big deal there, not as big as Canada Day here. Hi, Yasmin. Okay, so just to tell you guys exactly what colors we're gonna be using. If you caught my video from Thursday with the heather, I used my St. Petersburg colors, but for this Sunday, for today, I'm going to be using my Daniel Smith, which are right here, or which are right here, because it's multiple colors, yes. So let me just make sure that you're able to see. Pulling it down, you can see it in my, yes, okay. So this is how I have my colors here. We're going to be using the quinacridone rose, the phthalo blue, which is like a turquoisey blue, and then the French ultramarine, yeah, the French ultramarine as well. And I'm definitely going to be using the Hansa yellow light, because I'm going to mix this up with the phthalo blue to get my green. And then finally, I want some more muted green, so I'm definitely going to be mixing it with either the Mars Brown. No, definitely only the Mars Brown, because I don't have my my umber here. Otherwise, I'd be using a little bit of umber. So these are the colors we'll be using dominantly today. And just to also give you a heads up, the quinacridone rose is a really pretty pink. You mix it up with the ultramarine French, you get this really nice purple as well. And here you can see it on my Lisi Arts palette. I was just doing a quick test to see if the colors would flow well, and I thought they really did flow well. So this was the quinacridone rose, this was the quinacridone rose mixed with the ultramarine, French ultramarine. And then I had like little variations of it happening over here as well. All right, and I didn't wash it off because I figured we're doing something very similar here, so I could fluctuate between using my shell palette and this palette right here. All right, great. I think we are ready to begin. For brushes, I'm using the tiny ones, which are going to be number 2 and number 4. Number 4 is by Silver Black Velvet, and then the number 2 is my Escoda, so we can get that nice fine detail. And I have my paper towel ready, and I've got a tiny little thing of water here. This is a new product by Lisi Arts. It's a cute little rose looking water holder cup, and I have my big cup as well, so I can kind of fluctuate if I want to get some cleaner water onto my brushes or just clean my brushes. All right, great. So let's begin. I am going to start off by telling you guys what we're going to be doing. So first thing I want to do is, because this is a loose style of painting and I don't want to spend too much time doing a lot of detail, the number one thing I'm going to do is, obviously, it's a wreath, so we're going to make it in the form of a circle. So what I want to do is dampen up a small area to make the wreath circle, and then I'm going to go in with a brush with my green and then lay down the green on the insides of the damp area. I don't want to touch the edges because I want to get that soft edge, like as if the green is just kind of fading off. And I'm going to show you right now, so you don't have to rely on my explanation if it was really bad. All right, so I'm going to use my number 4, and I have some pre-mixed green on here, but just for the sake of the video, let's remix some green so you have that handy as well, and we're mixing together, right? So I'm going to get some of my yellow. You guys can see well, right? Yeah, I'm going to mix it on here. Get some of that water from the little cup of mine. Mix it on here. And now I'm going to get some of the phthalo blue. And mix that on here. And we've got like this nice medium green, bright green happening. Now I like this, but I don't like it. So I'm going to add a little bit of brown to it as well, because it's probably too much of the phthalo blue for my liking. But if you like that, absolutely stick with it. But because the heather is a nice pretty purple and pink, I want to mute the green a bit. So I'm just going to mix some of the brown here and then slowly get some mixed into this over here. Getting some more water, mixing that in. So now I've got like some brown, some light green, and then like some darker green here. So this green is a good green for what we're trying to do, which is kind of give a show of shadow, so that when we go over on top with the layers of the heather, it doesn't look like it's empty and there's white space behind. So we're gonna leave it at that. I'm washing off my brush right now to take all the color off, and then just gonna get some plain water on it, and we're going to start laying down our circle. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that the circle is not too overpoweringly big, so that I have a nice white space around the edge of my card. So I should have had something to kind of draw the circle on, but I don't have something that tiny. Oh, actually I do. I found this, because I always muck things up and I always end up making things larger than life for some reason. So I have that. Let me just see if I have a pencil that I can kind of use to make sure that it's giving me at least a little bit of guidance. Yeah, I do have a pencil. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of figure out the center, go right there, and then very loosely do a guide, circle guide for myself. Great. That is perfect. Thankfully I looked down my drawer and I saw the little candle bit that I had. Okay, so now that I have this, we're gonna go ahead and create the damp circle ring area that I was talking about. So I'm just gonna take my number 4, I think that's thick enough, and I'm going to go ahead and just do this, just like wet this whole area, dampen the whole area, give it like a water circle look, feel, whatever you want to call it. We're just dampening it for now. We want to make sure it's damp, properly damp, so that when we go in with our green, we have a nice flare of color and it looks nice and loose and dreamy-ish. Alright, so there we go. I think this is good enough. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to go in the absolute center of this damp area and add my green. I'm not going to go to the edges because I want the green, the water, to do its thing and have it go out to the edges and look natural, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to continue using the number 4. I'm going to get some of the green that we've mixed up here. You guys can see I'm going to move things up a little bit so you can see this front and center, and everything else is not so much front and center. So getting some of my green, I'm going to go ahead and add it right to the center and add it all the way around. And I love that beautiful flare that it gives us. And see how it's giving us that nice soft edge. You can continue adding a little more of the green. See, I'm not going to the absolute edge, but the dampness is making the color go to the edge and kind of stop short in some areas, and that's okay. We are not going to worry about that, but this ring is beautiful. I love it. So I'm going to get a little bit of the brown as well at the very top that I had mixed on my palette. I'm going to add that in certain areas, you know, shadow. Like a lot of the heather also contains a little bit of brown as well, so it's fine. And if you want to add it in almost like a circular manner, just adding tiny little lines to indicate circles with the brown, that's fine, go ahead. So this is like the wet on wet technique, right? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the same color that I have using the same brush, and we're going to extend this a little bit on the insides and the outsides as well, because these are little sprigs that are going to be sticking outward, right? So we want to get that feel. So I'm going to have some coming on the inside, and I'll just do mine in one direction so it doesn't look like it's all over the place, and try and make it sporadic or random so it doesn't look too symmetrical or too planned out either. Like some short ones, some big ones. Let's do some on the outside. And this, again, it'll give us a guide for where we're going to be adding our florals and some of our leaves, or yeah. Some maybe just like poking outward. Some maybe just like very tiny peaks happening. And what this is allowing us to do is get that nice blend in with the green in the back without it looking too sharp or not attached to, you know, the wreath. And this one I'll just kind of go poking outward this way. Perfect. So I've got this section done and ready. Now we're going to go on to the next bit, which is mixing up some of our purples, which is the fun part. So I'm going to get some of the, to start off, I'm going to start off with using the number 2, and we're going to mix in some of our quinacridone rose. And I already have some of that mixed here. I'm just going to continue mixing it on here. You guys can see that, right? Yes, you can. And consistency can be like 60-40 or 70-30, because we want it to be light, right? Now we're mixing in the French ultramarine with the quinacridone rose to get this sort of nice purple. So we can fluctuate and get a nice blending of these colors together. So getting some of that French ultramarine, to be politically correct. Perfect. So I don't want to mix too much, so let's just start with what we have. And oh, one more thing. For those of you who have gouache or white watercolor, if you want to use that at the end, which we can kind of go in and add a couple of dots. I've got some gouache. Just keep that handy if you want to use that. All right, so we're going to start. I'm going to start off by using some of the pink first. So I'm washing off my brush very loosely, getting some of my pink. And we're going to start off with this. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off just adding little dots in a linear fashion based on these little sprigs that we've done. And it doesn't have to be the actual sprigs. It can be sprigs that are on the side of it, because it's going to be, it needs to look like a full wreath. So we'll just start off with the actual sprigs that we've drawn off, just to kind of keep things easy for you guys so you're not having to think too much. So starting off with a couple of dots of these pink, of the pink, and I am keeping it. So I'm starting off a couple of pinks at the top, pink dots at the top, some in the center, and then some at the bottom, and I'm continuing on to the next one. So we're going to do this kind of all around. Starting at the top, a couple of dots, some at the center, and then some towards the bottom. Dipping the tip of my brush in water just to kind of dampen it some more. I'm doing the same technique all around for all these little sprigs that we've done. Yeah, I think it's best to start off with the sprigs we've painted in, and then we can kind of step back and decide if we need to add this anywhere else. And the pink needs to be sporadic, like I'm saying. Don't do the whole line in pink. Do some at the top, some in the center, some at the bottom. We want the dominant color to be purple with touches of pink. So that's what we are trying to achieve here. And for those who did the Heather video this week, I feel like that was less loose than what I'm doing right here. So hopefully this is more to your liking if you prefer something simpler and a little more loose where the colors just kind of mix in and do its thing without you having to go in and paint shapes or anything like that. So we're almost kind of done here. I think that was like the perfect amount of pink that I had. It's like done. All right, perfect. So now, actually, without even washing the brush off, just go ahead, get that purple, and continue doing the same thing. So again, I'm gonna do like one dot of purple at the top, a couple in the area where we've done the pink, and then the rest all the way down. And again, very sporadic. Don't have to cover up the whole thing with purple, because these florals are quite loose that way and they don't fill the whole sprig or stem. It's kind of hit or miss, I guess is a good way. Kind of reminds me of lavender as well, just in a more mauvey purple tone. Who knows, maybe some gardeners out there like will come back and say, hey, it's actually part of the lavender family, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, which I really don't. So I just have a friend whose name is Heather, and I realized there's a flower named Heather, and I was like, oh, this is nice, let me just try and do the flower and see how that works out. And then yeah, because who doesn't love purple? That's the other thing, like a pinky mauvey purple at that. So I'm gonna get some more of this purple. I think we need to mix a little bit more. So I'm mixing some of that quinacridone rose again, and I am going to get a little bit more of the ultramarine. That's it. Some water to it. Perfect. All right, so continuing on. And remember, do your little dots that are kind of like, not your little dots, the dots that I always talk about doing in your artwork, kind of just off to the side to indicate like things are fading off. So you're not giving it too much detail, but you know, do that. And again, I'm kind of trying to be sporadic about this. Have some of them meet maybe. Dipping the tip of my brush in water. And if some areas are still damp and you're going in with this purple right now, you're going to get a nice blend of that pink or purple or whatever other color version of these colors that you've been putting in. So now I'm just finishing off with the few ones that I had on here. They've kind of dried off already, so I'm not getting that blend. But once we've done this, what we're going to do is we're going to go in with our greens, and we're going to create the little leaves that go with these, or sprigs. I don't know what you would call them, because they're like, they almost kind of look like ferns attached, mini ferns attached to this flower. So just blending in some more color because I just need a tad bit more. And we could always do a spray of color splatter is what I'm talking about, not a spray. At the end with the darker purple, if you want the sides to be a little more loose looking. So keep that in mind. You don't have to kind of do that right away. Let's just put in the leaves and such first, and then we can kind of do the rest. All right, so almost done here. I know I talk about letting go a lot, and meanwhile I suffer, not really suffer, but I guess I have a massive issue letting things go. Even after I say, let things go, guys, don't overwork things. Here am I. Sometimes you just have that itch and you're like, can't. All right, almost done, I promise. Okay, good enough. We're not doing anything more. Okay, so we're gonna let this do its thing while it's drying, and we're gonna use some of the green that we have mixed up to create the little leaves that go, or the sprigs, or yeah, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it leaves because it's green. So we're gonna do a green very similar to what we've done here. We just need to make sure it's a little more opaque, so not watery. And even if it is watery, just make sure it's not too watery, so that if you're doing that wet on dry effect, it will still stand out. I just want mine to stand out a little bit more than the background. The background's like serving more as a shadow than anything else. So I'm using my number 2 because it's got a nice fine tip, and this will help me create those little tiny leaves that are going to add some nice detail to our painting. So I think this is a good consistency that I have here. And if you want to use 2 different versions of green, absolutely go ahead and use that, because that'll really help with dimension and stuff with the painting as a whole. All right, so for these leaves, we're just going to do a couple of sprigs all around, here and there, some of them coming out from the flower. So say you do a line here, and then you're just doing tiny little lines coming downward. Or if you want to go in the center itself, like on the absolute green as well, you can do that. And then kind of just overlap them as you go along. Just want to make sure you can see. I'm going to move this off my screen so it's just the focus is mainly what you see here. And some of them should be coming out from the actual flowers themselves, and just kind of add a little bit of a green tip on the actual flower sprigs too. That also kind of adds a nice, makes it tie in nicely with the rest of the stuff. Now the key over here is to make sure it's very fine, very tiny. So for those of you who find that challenging, I'm sorry, but trust me, this gets so therapeutic, and so, because it's repetitive, right? It's just, you can just get swept away with doing this on and on. So there we go. So now we're just repeating this throughout. That's the idea. So I'm going to add some coming out from the flower sprigs like I mentioned, and then kind of like just trailing off. If you guys have any questions and you want to put them in the chat, I can definitely answer them, because I know this is not my typical big blooms all over the place, willy-nilly, bright colors happening. This is a little bit different from my regular stuff. And if not, that's totally fine. We continue doing these little sprigs. And again, like I said, if you have two different variations of green, I think that'll be really nice. It'll add something like light and dark shadow effects kind of to the whole painting. So don't feel like you need only one kind and you only need to get that kind every time you mix the color. So I'm always adding like a little bit of green to the tip of these floral sprigs that we've done. Just gonna mix a little bit more of that color so I get a slightly darker hue, just like I have been telling you guys to get a slightly different color. Yeah, Deborah, could you add a bow? Yes, you could absolutely add a bow. Maybe even using with the gouache, because I don't have too much space here with all the flowers, but a nice pink bow would be really pretty there. Great suggestion. I was thinking it, to be very honest. So I'm just adding a couple of like loose dabs of this green that I have onto some of the sprigs. Mixing more of that green. Lily Million, fabulous. Thanks, Laura. I'm glad you're liking it. Yeah, I know I have some quirky words that I use when I am in the groove and in the thick of things, kind of just painting along, trying to like find words that can best describe what I am doing and trying to keep it fun and engaging for you guys. All right, so literally I'm just adding these tiny little bits in areas that I feel it could connect well with the sprigs we've done. And that really is all there is to it at this point. We're still kind of just doing that. And if you want to add a couple of dots in some of the areas that have a little bit of white space in the purple pink that we've painted on, yeah, that's a good that'll break up the painting nicely as well. So like this area's got like a whole bunch of purple there. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of green dabs. And kind of just going along with this same pattern. It's a thin line and then adding little lines on the outsides of it. I'm just going to keep give it a little bit of detail in these areas that have like a green. Like you can see the background green that we've done and it just doesn't have any flowers or anything. So I'm just kind of filling that up with some of this little texture that we're doing for the green. And let's do one over here too. And now these are like, some of them are just like they've got like little branches to it and they kind of branch out and have their own little stuff. So I'm just doing some that look like that, just like that over here. And again, it adds something additional and different. It doesn't quite have that holly look to it because for some reason this so looks like a holly to me, just with different colors. Well, it is circular too, and the detail on it is quite similar, minus the berries that would typically be there. Well, you're welcome, Lily White. I'm so glad you like it. Thank you, Laura. This is hair that has that could use a wash. Otherwise, it would be a lot more curlier if it was washed. But I will take the compliment. So again, we're just kind of doing the same thing. There's certain areas over here that I find it's very, very light in green, in the green that we've used. So I'm going to mix a little bit more of this. And I am going to go ahead and add some of the brown as well to the green right here. So now we have like a darker looking green, right? And I want this to kind of act as the shadow. So I'll just use this in a couple of areas here and there to kind of give us that nice dark and light. Let's see if I am successful in doing that, because sometimes I overwork things and then, you know, they don't quite look as sharp. So I'm just adding them a couple of areas here, and I'm adding these branches like they are attached, and so you can see that it's not just coming out of nowhere. So it gives it a little bit of a tie-in at the end. So let's do, so I've got one branch here, let's do one over on this end. Kind of going out with this sprig maybe, and then just one coming out this way. And adding more of the darker green to the edge so it goes into the bottom. Alright, same thing here. Now I'm hoping that the darkness, the dark green that I have chosen for this kind of overlaps on the green that I've already painted on, and again giving us that nice layering feel to things so it doesn't look flat. Perfect. So I'm thinking we don't need to do too much work to this beyond adding some over here at the top and some here. I think this has come along quite nicely. I kind of really like how this looks. I'll just add, I think the rest of the green, you can maybe even add it as like a couple of dots here and there in these areas to kind of fill it up. So you're kind of avoiding the whole adding too much detail. So I'm just going to go in and add these little pointillism dots. That's why I said today is going to be a lot of pointillism involved. And this is what I meant by that, because now we're just going in and we're adding these dabs, tiny little green dabs. So just getting whatever color is left over, kind of just going in, allowing it to kind of blend in with the whole mishmash of green and greens that we have here. This wildflower bouquet of heather. Well, so it's just the heather really, not any of the other ones. So I will change the name of that on YouTube just as soon as I am done this and I have pictures. Okay, so I love how this has turned out. What I'm going to do is one last thing before we kind of explore using the white. I'm going to get a little more of the green that I've got mixed up here, and I'm just going to add a couple of dabs of these to the edge of some of these areas here. So tiny little dabs of green happening in and around these areas, so it looks like there's like tiny green leaves or other sort of greenery that's poking out. Also kind of adds a nice soft loose touch to our painting. So almost done. Doesn't have to be all around, just here and there in certain areas. So if you feel like you've done and you're good to go and move on to the next step, just pause and wait for me. All right, I'll just do, because I've got some of these like little green extended leaves in 2 places, but I don't have a third. So I'm just going to do a third on the outskirts before I join you for the gouache bit. So get ready with the gouache. I just realized I didn't add too much green on the inside here, so I'm just kind of dabbing some of that on the insides too, so it looks just as loose as the outside. All right, so here's my one last little sprig of green. Let's do it over here. Yeah, perfect. Okay. All right, great. So, do you guys have any questions for me at this point while we are paused before we get into the gouache? Here's your chance. I honestly wasn't quite sure how this was going to turn out, but I really like how it's turned out. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Deanna. I'm glad you agree. You could even actually go in a little bit later and add a slightly darker version of that too, is my thinking. Okay, so I'm gonna mix some of my white gouache, and I don't need too much, so I'm just gonna mix. Okay, that is a lot. That is a lot. I said I don't need too much, and I kind of put in much. So just getting a little bit of water. Do they really? Oh yeah, my nails do kind of match it. It was not planned. It really was not planned. My nails matching. Thanks, Deborah. Patty, I'm sure you'll remember. And if not, just DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I will respond. All right, okay, so I've mixed in some of the white, and what I'm gonna do is, again, I just wanna use the tip of this brush because while it is a 2, I don't wanna get too much white all over the place, but the white will be like a really nice addition, especially with the green happening. So I'm just gonna try and add it almost like in a similar fashion like it is one of the sprigs, and let's just see how that works out. So adding a couple of these little white dots all around. If you have sprigs that you want to follow along with the white dots, then yes, go ahead. And if not, just make sure you're kind of using it sparingly, because then you don't want to look back and go, oh, this just looks like one big dotted white wreath. So make sure you're following along with the sprig and just kind of lightly adding the white, giving it some breathing room with lots of green, and kind of moving on to separate different areas on your wreath. We're going to add some to the pink purple areas as well. Yes, a little goes a long way. The thing is, every time I squeeze some out of the tube, it just comes out way too much than I anticipated. So I'm adding some of these gouache bits to the darker purple, but just a little bit, not too much, because I don't want it to be completely overpowering the purple where you cannot see the purple at all. So just a couple here and there. Getting some more of that. Here's some nice green, dark green areas. I'm just going to add a couple of trailing dots there. Here's some darker purple. Add some one here too. So now, you know how we kind of went on the outskirts and did our little bits of green? And on the inside we've got these little dots of white. I think they would like team up really well, because then it'll almost look like, yeah, it's the green shining on the inside, or some of the actual flowers themselves shining on the inside. Did I explain that properly? I don't know. All right, I'm just gonna add a couple of these dots here at the top, and then I think we are good to go in terms of letting this one go and allowing it to just be as is. So this one, I just want to make sure this is in a direction here. And then just like a couple of dots here. Okay, perfect. I'm not going to do any more. This is it. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments really quickly while you guys can have a look at what's been done. I'm going to shut this off so that it's not interfering with your view and you can just see the little wreath. And let me just read comments, what people are saying. Okay. Patty still doesn't know the question. That's okay. Yeah, okay. I think I've caught up with everyone. Thanks, Bobby. I'm glad you like this. Thanks, Leah. Can I bring it closer? Closer. Yes. You know what? Let me just try and see if I can bring it up more. Let me see if it is... if it's blurry to you guys. In fact, let me see here. Yep, you can see this, right? Yeah, so there we go. We've got our darks, lights. You could even go in with, like I mentioned earlier, you can go in with a spray and just add a spray of green, like just at the edges, so you get that nice dotted bit around it. But otherwise, this is your finished product. It's like a cute heather wreath with gouache. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in the comments below or on Instagram or on Facebook. My Instagram handle is @HelloClariceG, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Let me just see as I put this down if I can actually zoom in, so you guys can just kind of keep on seeing it as I quickly see if anyone has any questions, and then we kind of move on from there. Perfect. Adjusted it so now you can see it. All right, great. Awesome. I'm glad you asked, Cindy. So here you go. You can actually see it now, and I've kind of made it slightly brighter so you can see that as well. Someone's saying they can't find gouache in Barbados. I will have to order it. Or I think some of the colors, some of the watercolors actually come with white. I don't know how effective that is, but you can absolutely check that out as well. Or there's these little chalk pens by Sharpie, I think, and they have these little white pens. You could even use that. You're welcome, Patty. I'm glad this was something different. Good to know gouache can be used with regular brushes. Yeah, I use it. You can use your watercolor brushes for gouache. I believe they can, yeah, interchange because they're kind of similar, but not really. Yeah, that's why they kind of go hand in hand, and you can still get that nice soft effect with it as well. Yeah, okay, that's it. All right, so if no one has any questions, guys, I know it's 4th of July for most of you, so carry on with your festivities, pool parties, and hoping to see lots of pictures on social media from you guys. And like I said, or like I always say, if you do end up doing this, please do tag me on social media. And yeah, I love seeing your work. And if you do tag me and you're not on private, I can actually share it in my stories and all that good stuff. I love seeing your work. That's the bottom line. So thanks so much for joining, guys, and we'll chat soon. I am going to bid you all goodbye. Bye.